Welcome to the Not Your Average Knits podcast. My name is kbridgeo. This is episode 20, and it has been over a month since I've podcast. So many things have been happening, as many of you know, if you are a longtime watcher, that we just closed on a condo. So I'm now in my new condo space. I will put some pictures up at the end, so for those that are interested, they can see a little bit more about that at the end of the episode, and those who aren't don't have to stay on until the end. It was just a sort of crazy move. Right after Christmas, we had so much going on. We ended up painting the whole entire place and doing a couple different things, putting some floors down in the bedroom. So it was just very, very busy. So I finally feel kind of settled. We're getting back into a routine again. So I'm so excited to finally podcast. I've just been thinking about it over the last month and seeing everyone else's latest episodes, and I've been so excited to get back and talk to you. I don't actually have tons of sort of finished objects and works in progress to show. Like I said, we were so busy, I barely had any time to knit. But like I said, I'm excited to kind of finally be getting back into it again. All right, let's just kind of jump right in. So some of the things I think that I've finished since my last episode, I had worked on a scarf for my niece's friend that my niece was giving to her friend for Christmas. So that is finished. I don't have it with me to show, but that was something that I was kind of working on fairly monogamously to get it done prior to Christmas, as well as a couple other cowls that my friends and cousins had bought from me that they wanted for the winter. So wrap those up as well, and they have those also. One of the other things, I think, not sure if I had finished it or not last episode, but this is the chunky waffle hat, and this is in the I think Malabrigo bulky or chunky or something like that, in the Malanga colorway. Really, as you can see, I guess it's not quite finished. I still haven't woven in my ends. Probably haven't blocked this yet either. Really pretty. I love this colorway. I definitely will be buying more in this colorway. It's just really pretty reds and oranges and blues and purples and gray. I mean, every color of the rainbow, but in a very kind of muted way. Really like this hat. It was pretty easy. I did it on, I don't remember how, a little bit, probably a bigger than a 16-inch cord knit in the round, and then ended up being able to use the cord to just continue on in magic loop at the end. Not a big fan of switching to double pointed needles at that point, so I've kind of been sort of trying to figure out how to just make magic loop work with whatever needles I'm using. So this is a finished hat. This I just finished, and I haven't blocked it yet. So I went back through, I'll talk a little bit, when I get to kind of what's next, I'll talk a little bit about that. But so this had been in my queue for a little while. It is the Capella cowl by, I'm totally blanking, Hilary Callis. This I knit in Dreaming Color Classy, which is the worsted weight. Should have been more prepared, but I'm not. But that's okay, because here I am podcasting again, and it's so exciting. So Dream in Color Classy, and this is the Peaceful Transition colorway, which is a Hamilton-based color, and I'll tell you some exciting things kind of related to Hamilton at the end when I kind of fill you in on what's been going on. This is a really pretty color. Like, the base of it is kind of purpley and navy blue, but then it just has areas of like lighter pinks and lavenders. Really, really pretty color, and as you'll see, the work that I did it in is all stockinette stitch, so it really kind of shows the color. Okay, so this isn't blocked, and I haven't woven ends yet, and it's not going to look like much. So you can see that it's all stockinette, and the color is just so pretty. Did some pooling, which of course I don't love, but it increased enough that the pooling changed a lot. So like you can see on the end, there's a lot of bright stuff there. And then there's a lot of like dark stuff on this end, but this is mostly the bottom, so it's an I-cord cast off. Let me see if I can put this on without. So it's basically a cowl, but the way it's constructed allows it to kind of to fall all the way down your neck instead of it being like a long cowl that then falls like lower. So I just kind of wanted to try this construction. I had some ideas about designing something like this, and then when I saw this, I was like, oh, I wonder how that one's done. I don't love it. It just didn't super work for me. I don't totally love how this edge is. It kind of ends up being a garter tab cast on with like a small garter ridge along this edge, but it's sort of folding in. It doesn't really have tons of structure. But I mean, I love the idea of it and just kind of the way it falls. So we'll see. We'll see how it kind of blocks out. Like I said, the ideas I had for making a similar type cowl is a little bit different in construction. So we'll see how, when I get to that eventually, how that works. But again, really like this yarn, super smushy, love the colorway. And that is done. And I had 2 skeins of that. So this is whatever's left of the second skein, which is a lot. So I don't know what I'll make with this, but okay. And then I just finished. So this is not yet released. This is the Wanderwood beanie by Tristan Molina of Dragon Horde Yarns and the Girls in the Yarn Cafe podcast. So she was looking for testers, so I was able to test knit this for her. So it's a super cute beanie hat. Has sort of seed stitch sections in between some nice cables, really good kind of solid border on the bottom. One of the things I love, I took a picture like this and then just loved how it turned out. Like the top of the hat looks really cool with the way kind of the cables sort of converge on the top. I don't know, I just thought that looked really neat. So yeah, it went pretty quick. Test knit a couple things for her. Yeah, I mean, not much else to say other than I really like the hat. So I will let you know when she does release it. So you guys can go get your hands on that pattern. This yarn, I'll show you it in the ball as well. I've used this before and shown you this yarn before. So this is by Old Rusted Chair, who's a great yarn dyer as well. She isn't making this colorway anymore, I don't think, which is sad because it's gorgeous. It's all gray with all of these really cool rainbow speckles. Probably very time consuming to make, I would guess, because it is kind of such a really interesting color. And I debated on what yarn to use for this hat, and really loved how it knit up. I should say this is DK weight, so if you have kind of a skein of DK, and actually I had all this much left over, so you don't even need a full skein of DK to do this. So yeah, hang on to any skeins of DK that you have and think about what you would want to make this hat. So thank you, Tristan, for letting me test knit. It was a blast. Okay, I'm gonna show you some finished weaving items that I have. I know not everyone is interested in weaving, and maybe that's something that you're not planning on doing or have no interest in, but I mean, I will still be using, for the most part, yarn colors from my stash, and any new yarn that I buy, you'll see in the what I got that I definitely have purchased yarn that I'm going to weave with as well. So hopefully, even if you're not interested in the weaving part, you'll still appreciate seeing sort of how different yarns weave up and how they look when they're in a finished object. Like I said, I'm still going to be using kind of typical kind of yarn dyer yarn and things like that for the things that I weave. And it's really actually kind of interesting to see how they look in a woven pattern as opposed to in a knit pattern as well. So I think last time I had only finished my very first project, which I had done in Knit Picks Felici, just kind of did a small skinny scarf. The second thing that I knit, I may have shown photos or done like a little video because I think it was on the loom at the time that I was podcasting last, which again was, I think, probably close to a month ago today. So it's been a long time. So this scarf, I was super excited with how it knit up. This was what wove up. I don't even know how to even use the terminology. Super happy with the finished product. I kind of had a vision for what I thought it was going to look like after looking at kind of other people's projects on Ravelry. So this yarn, I don't have the tag, but it's by Ethereal Fibers, and the colorway is Snow and Coal, and it's so pretty, and I had had it for a really long time. So this is the finished product. So, I mean, you could see that the base was mainly white and just kind of had splotches of black. But because when you weave, you have a set of threads that go this way and then a set of threads that go across, it made all of these really cool crisscrosses, which I thought was really fun. I haven't quite figured out with weaving what I'm going to continue to do with edges. For now, I'm just leaving kind of basic fringe. and just kind of like a small sort of seam there. A lot of people will do twisted fringe, or I don't know. I just need to kind of figure out what's going to work for me, but I like the way this came out a lot. I mean, I had problems with kind of my edges. It's really hard to kind of crisscross the yarn and keep it at the same exact kind of gauge, I guess. It's similar to sort of knitting in that way, and not pull too tight and kind of make the whole thing wavy and then not leave it too loose to have too many loops on the end, but just need some practice. So anyway, really like how this came out. I think it's just gorgeous, and it made me really think about like what other types of yarn would have this kind of similar effect. And this is one skein, so this is folded in half. So one skein of fingering weight yarn gets you a pretty decent size scarf when weaving. So I was kind of super excited about that because I have lots of one skein colors that I want to be able to do things with. I do also want to play around with not having fringe and then just seaming the ends together and making cowls. I think that would be really pretty. Yeah, it's just a challenge because you really don't want this compared to knitting. Like there's no kind of clean cast off sort of sorry, I don't know what's wrong with my voice. So finishing is just a little bit of a challenge. But anyway, so that's this one. Then I wanted to try houndstooth. If you follow me on Instagram, I had posted a couple messages of this a while back. I mean, I think I finished a lot of these even before Christmas. Really wanted to play around with houndstooth. It's surprisingly easy to set up. So the way you kind of set the two different yarn colors on the loom and then the way you alternate colors as you're weaving through, it's kind of magic. It's just magic. So this is my houndstooth scarf. I used Mrs. Crosby Hatbox, I think is the base. And the colors were, God, I didn't bring them out with me. Is it Greystone, maybe? And I can't remember the blue. I'll look it up and put it on the screen below. But I, again, like had this in my stash for so long and loved Mrs. Crosby and was like hoarding all of the different bases and colors. And I'd always wanted to use these two together because they sort of have the same hue, I guess. And it's just so cool. And this one too, I haven't cut my fringe, so it's just kind of super long and dangly and snarly. But and this too is folded in half. This one made a lot thicker of a fabric. I think I probably wove a lot tighter, which I wanted to do because I wanted that sort of houndstooth pattern to show up. And then you can even tell too on my edges, they're not as loopy as all of the other projects were. So I did sort of a lot just tighter. I feel like that's going to be the way to go, that when I set my loom, I'm going to set it wider than I normally would, and then allow myself to kind of pull it in tighter and be okay with that as long as I'm kind of consistent and that I don't get like a wavy scarf. But anyway, I was super excited with this one. I just love the way it feels. It's a lot thicker. So knowing, again, that like 2 skeins of Mrs. Crosby Hatbox will get me this size scarf and this weight, was a good kind of experiment to see what I could do with the yarn that I have. And then finally, my last woven project. So I have had these 2 skeins. It's Malabrigo sock in Ochre and Primavera. I got these 2 skeins from I'm trying to remember which yarn club it was. I don't remember. It wasn't Yarn Box. I had done another one for a very short amount of time, and I had 2 skeins in that. And so I've wanted to use these 2 skeins together for a while. The yellow is definitely not sort of my typical cup of tea. And so for this, I wanted to try out plaid because the yellow is very solid. Yeah, the ochre color is solid, and Primavera is the variegated, I think. So I wanted to kind of see what plaid would look like doing a solid and a variegated. So this is my finished project for that. So you can obviously see the gold color, and then the variegated has mostly kind of greens and oranges and golds. Again, I won't keep this. I'm not a yellow wearer. But I was psyched about trying with plaid. So like I just kind of made up this plaid sequence. So you kind of decide how many strands of the different colors you want to alternate as you go across, and then you figure out as you go vertical, and then you figure out how many rows of each color you want going up and down. I didn't want to have to cut my yarn when I changed color, so I only did like a few rows of each and kind of carried it up. So like the width of the vertical stripes are bigger than the width of the horizontal stripes, which is perfectly fine. I think it came out kind of cool. Again, sort of practice doing the edges a lot tighter. They don't look perfect, but I don't really care. I'm kind of happy with the way it is. These two, I didn't even like trim this fringe. It's just ratty. And this I haven't wet finished either. So I kind of did a lot of these, like I said, right before Christmas. Didn't finish them, just kind of needed to get the project off the loom so that I could pack, because we were packing at that point in time. So that is it for weaving, and that is it for all my finished objects and what I have done. The only real whips that I have, so I had started, I think in early December, I don't even know if I showed you this, for Eat Sleep Knit, they were doing, they do different knit alongs throughout the year, and one of them had been using something with yarn that had at least 50% silk in it. So I had bought a skein of yarn. I had bought from Northbound Knitting their Merino silk fingering, which is 50-50 merino and silk. And this is the driftwood colorway. So I had bought this from Eat Sleep Knit during the year and then was planning on doing a shawl. I'm sure I showed you way early on when I first started the podcast. And I'm going to not be able to pronounce the name, so I will just write it below. So I had started it in, I think, early December to try and get it finished by the end of December so that I could count it toward the knit along. At that point, I knew I probably wasn't going to finish, and the amount that I was going to earn for it wasn't really going to get me to any level before the end of the year anyway, so I stopped working on it. I'm hoping this will be something that I go back to. I don't want it to just kind of go away now that I can't get credit for it on Eat Sleep Knit, because it's so pretty, and I love the yarn and love the pattern and love them both together. Anyway, so this is all I had started and then decided it wasn't going to be worth it. So you can't really see much, but it's kind of like these like stockinette sections that almost look like cables, and then these little kind of lacy sections. So yeah, that's as far as I've got. But it's really pretty, and I like the yarn a lot. It just has a gorgeous sheen to it because it's got silk in it, and it's just different shades of brown and tan. So I really like it a lot. So that is at least a whip, but I'm not actively working on it. I'm not sure when I will get back to it. But I did want to show it because that was something I had started. Then the one other thing I started working on, so when I highly suggest to everyone that if you're not going to move, because moving is a pain, and I hope to not do it again. We moved twice in less than a year, and that wasn't fun. But to kind of go through your stash and just really see what you have, whether you're organizing it or taking it out of something and putting it, back in and kind of moving things around. It really kind of reminds you of what you have. That isn't to say that I haven't bought anything since I went through all my stash, but it does kind of remind you of the yarn that you have and why you bought it in the first place and how much you love it. So one of the things I had wanted to do, and I actually went back and found when I bought this yarn on a previous podcast to see kind of when it was, and I think it was sometime in June or July that I had podcasted about it. I had bought a bunch of Malabrigo Finito, which I've talked a lot about. I was introduced to it when I did sort of a Will Work for Yarn project a long time, over a year ago, I think at this point. And it's gorgeous yarn, pure superfine kettle dyed merino wool. You get 200 yards and they come in 50 grams. So it's a little more expensive, but when I say that it feels like 100% cashmere, it does. It's fingering weight, but it's kind of heavy fingering, I think it is anyway. And it just feels awesome. And so I had a bunch of just kind of random colors that I had bought kind of a couple skeins here and there of. But then back in June, I bought 6 or 7 skeins of this colorway, which is Paloma. I'll show you the tag there, Paloma. So the project I'd had in mind when I bought that is the Sunwalker shawl by Melanie Berg. And she designed it, I think, in Finito. So the sample and the pictures that she has in her pattern is Finito. So I love it. So this is definitely a knit for me project for sure. Because as I've said before, I don't usually knit things for myself, but I love Finito yarn love gray and really like this pattern. So this is what I have so far. So you start really low and then you're kind of increasing and decreasing at the same time to kind of do this asymmetrical triangle. So this is knit on size 5 needles, and this is actually through one skein. I was just knitting on this last night and finished my first skein, which isn't too bad, and like I said, they're 50 grams. And this part so far is just kind of a double stockinette section. So it's pretty easy. I mean, it's I think a 12-row repeat, and you're just kind of increasing and decreasing as you go along, so you get more stitches on the needle every time. I think I'm about halfway through, a little more than halfway through this sort of stockinette section part, and then it's a huge lacy section after that. So I'll be excited kind of when I get to that piece as well. But it is fun to kind of see how this is growing, and I do like, I mean, you can see even from there how tonal the yarn is. I just hand wound my next ball, but even you can see, like, I don't know if you'll be able to really see, but even like the differences in, like, these are all the same dye lot, but like this one in the middle is a lot lighter, has some lighter sections, but it's, I think, different enough already within one skein that it looks very tonal, so I don't think I'll have too many problems. I didn't want to alternate skeins for something like this. So yeah, I did rip back once. If you follow me on Instagram, I did a little poll as to whether I should rip or not. I just had one tiny section in one row that for whatever reason I was supposed to be doing knit, purl, and I switched to purl, knit, so it made like an extended stockinette section. And it wasn't very noticeable, but I could notice, and that's all I needed. I think I put the poll out there, but I'm like, I know I'm going to rip it back. Like, I just can't stare at it. So anyway, so I did rip it back. So I was a little, like, maybe a few hours behind. It took me a couple hours to kind of re-knit what I had undone. But, oh well, the life of a knitter who needs everything to be perfect. Anyway, so that is my other main work in progress. The other two things that you've seen before that I need to finish are the two kind of mystery knit-alongs, Joji Locatelli's Starting Point and Mina Phillip Knitting Expats Road to Rhinebeck shawl. So both of those shawls I want to finish. Love both of them. Really excited to kind of see how they will work out in the end. And they're just kind of, you know, once sort of I knew I wasn't going to finish as part of kind of the knit-along, I started something different and Christmas hit and all that stuff. So hopefully I will get back to those, but I really do want to finish them. So those are kind of aside, but I don't want to start too many new things until I get back to those. My friend Caitlin, who is Kate G Designs, she's been doing like a whip a week. She has so many whips, so where every week she kind of is focusing on one project. Feasibly, I don't think I could do that, but I love the idea. Like I like the idea of kind of giving a little bit of attention to all of the different whips that you have. But I'm just too, I can't just focus on one. Like, it depends on the day or where I am. I just need to be working on different projects. I do also want to get back, I didn't bring it down, but when I was cleaning and going through everything, of course, I found all of like my leftover yarn. And if you remember from like my very first episode last year, I started doing like a Cozy Memory mitered square blanket. And Kay Litton of the Crazy Sock Lady podcast, she's been doing, I think, Scrappy Sunday or Scrappy Saturday, one of those, where she's focusing on those kinds of scrappy projects. That too, I really like the idea, and I'm tempted to try and do that on a Sunday. But again, it depends on what I'm working on. Like, if I'm close to finishing something, I'm going to want to work on that and not on the blanket. But one of my resolutions is to work on that kind of Cozy Memories blanket more, because as I was cleaning, I was finding a lot more leftovers. I'll show you pictures where we have, I'm staring at it right now, we have a gorgeous built-in in our condo, and there's tons of cabinetry underneath, so I have all of my project bags, my loom, all of my weaving supplies and knitting supplies are all under there. All of my yarn is in a couple different locations, but nice that I can put all of my projects and things in there, and this is the room that I knit in anyway. But also we have a bunch of shelves, and my husband was fine with putting a couple of knitting related things on display on the shelves. So one of the things I did at Pier 1, I bought this kind of just glass jar So I have small, whatever the fingering weight yarns are that I'm going to use for my Cozy Memories blanket, I put in there. I don't have tons. I like almost want to fill it, but at the same time, it's probably good that I don't keep it filled. And so I went through a lot of the yarn that I had just kind of thrown in bags and kind of wound off like 6 or 7 grams of the yarn that I knew I would want and put it in there. So that way it's just kind of ready to go and already wound for me. When I think the first week I had my knitting friends over after I moved in, they were super helpful, and I kind of had so many bags of random things and scraps and old whips that were with like old acrylic yarn on, old needles that I don't use anymore, and just projects I had started that I knew I wouldn't get any joy out of finishing. So they were good with helping me to like take it apart, throw this away, put this in a bag to give away, and, reorganize this, repurpose that. And so it was super helpful, and it was good that I just now feel kind of fresh start for 2018 to kind of be more organized in what I'm knitting. But anyway, so I have a jar of the small yarn balls that I'll be using for my Cozy Memories blanket. And then I also have sort of a lot of heavier weight yarn that are just kind of my leftovers. So I kind of wound those up a little bit pretty and put them in kind of this little tin that I have, and it looks really pretty, so that's kind of on display as well. And my husband was like, sure, yeah, put, if you have yarn, put it in there. So so that's been really fun too. Anyways, what was I talking about? I don't know, but so obviously I needed to kind of think about what's next and what the next things will be that I want to work on. I started going through my Ravelry queue. So I used to put tons of stuff in my queue. Initially, because if it was something to get on if it was a pattern to be on your wish list, you had to put it in your queue, I think, in order for it to show up in your wish list. Now, Ravelry's made some changes, and you actually have a bundle in your favorites. That's a wish list bundle. So I kind of went through some things in my queue that, like, sure, I would want to do with certain yarn that I have, but it was like a year and a half ago or something that I wanted to make it, and obviously so much time has gone by and there are other amazing patterns that I want to make. So I kind of cleaned a lot of stuff out of there. I think I have maybe 70-ish things, which is good, which is cleaned. I think I had almost 200 before. So that kind of felt good to really go through and be like, how much do you really want to make this? Because I want to utilize my queue more and kind of stick to it a little bit better. One of the things I found, which I wanted to tell you guys about, and many of you may already know this, but you can tag projects that are in your queue. And then you can make different tabs on the screen that then show you the different projects that have those tags. I'll see if I can do like a video and record that and kind of show you what I'm talking about. So it was really cool because so what I was able to do was kind of go through, like, now that I did a couple sweaters last year, I'm on not a sweater kick, but I definitely want to at least make a couple every year because there are so many awesome patterns out there. Mostly Hohi Locatelli, who makes amazing patterns. But anyway, so I went through my queue, found the things that were sweaters, tagged them sweater. Went through things that are like shawls or scarves, tagged those. Went through things that were sort of hats or mittens or kind of smaller little accessory items and tagged those. Also in your queue, even though there aren't weaving patterns per se in Ravelry, you can create a project and tag it as a weaving project, and it does have some fields that you can fill in some information for that are related to weaving projects. And then other people that have done things, I've been able to kind of favorite the things that they've done and follow their notes and things like that. Anyway, but so you can create a project without a pattern. So I do that a lot where if like there's yarn that I know I definitely want to use for something and I don't know what it is, or if I want to use it for an upcoming design that I'm going to design, obviously I can't link it to a pattern. So you can create a project without having a pattern connected to it. So I will do that a lot for yarn. So I've been doing that for weaving, where I know I want to use a certain yarn and maybe this is the order in which I want to sort of get this project done relative to other projects. So I've been doing a tag also that is a weaving project tag. What's awesome is that you can have the main queue in the order that you want to do all of the items, but then if you click on the sweaters tab, it will show you the 3 sweaters that you want to do next. If you click on the neckwear tab or whatever I have, I can see the neckwear items that I want to do. And then you can even sort of sort within that section and it will kind of sort your overall queue. So if I change my mind and a new sweater pattern comes out, I can flip-flop the sweaters, and it will flip-flop within kind of the full queue, if that makes any sense. So I don't know. So it was kind of cool for me to feel a little bit more, a little bit less scattered, I guess, with everything that I want to do, because I get so overwhelmed, to sort of be like, all right, put everything you want to do, let's categorize it, and then you can see like, okay, this is the next sweater I want to do, this is the next shawl I want to do, I want to do this hat, I want to weave with this yarn. So anyway, so a little bit of advice if you didn't know that you could kind of organize your queue that way. That's what I've kind of been doing. So it was fun to kind of go back through and really think through the things that I wanted to do next and why. Anyway, so I did want to show you, I know I've talked before about wanting to do the Comfort Fade cardigan. And after I record this and show you this yarn, I'm winding this yarn and thinking about casting on at some point soon. I just want to get a sweater on the needles and kind of work on it when I can. So I had talked before about kind of picking out the yarn that I think I want to use. The pattern, I meant to look it up before now, but it uses either, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it either uses 3 colors or it uses 5 colors. I think it's just 3, but I want to use 4 and kind of blend them in a little bit differently because I don't think I had enough yarn enough yardage of certain colors in the way that the pattern called for. So I figured if I added another color, then I could kind of figure it out and make it work. So let me show you kind of the darker color I've been thinking about, and you've seen all of these before. So this is Into the World, their Dresden DK base, and this is 221B, which I thought was just a weird name when they name all of their things really cool things. I'm like, weird that they would name it this. And then my friend Helen told me that, is it Doctor Who? I don't know, that it has a reference to a show that I don't watch. But anyway, so this is the 221B colorway. It's very dark purple and black. It's almost having a little bit of a bright glow with the light that it's not actually that bright. Like it's pretty dark. So this I think is my darkest color. Then I bought 2 skeins of DK, again from Old Rusted Chair, so like the rainbow hat that I showed you, the gray and rainbow. So I got 2 skeins from her, Old Rusted Chair, and this is her burlesque colorway, which is so pretty. And it's purple and black, has a little bit of like red and pink kind of break within the color. Like on this one, you can see that a lot. So I have 2 skeins of that. So I feel like that's kind of, because it has areas of sort of black in it here, I feel like that could potentially kind of fade pretty well. Then my next color I was debating. So I have this color, which is by Wool & Boon, and this is on her Boon DK base. This colorway is Thistle. So I know this is kind of a big departure to the next, but I don't really have anything that is super good. But what I thought was interesting was that this pink does have a lot of kind of that red splotchiness to it. Sorry if it's kind of bright right there. So I don't know. I felt like in certain areas where this color is a lot kind of paler pink and red, that maybe it would flow pretty well. Let me just say, so in the apartment where we lived since March, it was, just kind of an apartment in a big apartment building. So all we had was a slider in the living room and then like 1 window in a bedroom and 1 window in the other bedroom. That was it. It was very, very, not a lot of light. Let me see if I can turn you around. I'm sorry if I'm going to make you all sick by this. So this is one corner. So there's the little built-in. But then we have a window there, a fireplace. So it's so crazy. So and then there's the built-in again I was talking to you about. So there's so much light in here. Actually, it's a very rainy day, but it looks like it's starting to get less dark out. So it's just hysterical that like all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, I'm so bright. Anyway, so sorry if the lighting's weird. I have to get used to it. Anyway, so I'm thinking of using, oh, that's actually better. So I'm thinking of using this one next. The one thing I was debating, so I showed this, I think last episode, I got this yarn from Dragon Horde Yarn, and it's her Farah colorway. I was debating putting this here, and then maybe still using this one, but I don't know. I feel like this has a little bit different of a shade. Like it's very much more of a darker mauve. And I kind of just want to use this alone. I feel like it's too tonal, where all of the other ones are a bit more variegated. Like granted, this one's tonal and just has like speckles, but I feel like there's so many different speckles that it will just work better in a fade. So I think I'm just going to hang on to this one for something else. I did debate doing Tristan's Wanderwood beanie in this color, but her sample was in this color, so I don't know. I still might. Okay, and then the fourth color, so I have talked about this yarn before, but I kept thinking that I had never shown it, and I don't think I have. So this is from Kayleen with Little Bean Loves yarn. She also has the Little Bean and Me podcast. This is, the colorway name is 11. 11 Goes Bitchin' is the technical name for it. So if you all watch Stranger Things, it's a reference to Stranger Things. I binge watched it like earlier in, I don't know, end of the fall or something, and loved it. Really loved the show. I'm sorry. Unplugged myself as I was giving you a quick tour. So I knew, I think when I bought these, that I wanted to use it with those others for the fade. So the base is kind of cream, and then it has purple. Sorry, I'm just trying to get it to focus here. Getting a little bit too blown out, but has purple and pink and reds. Just a really, really cool colorway. Part of me almost wants to use these in something separate, but I think she still has some of it, so I'll buy more if I need to buy more. She also has a different color, Sister Use Your Pain, which is another reference, which is very similar to this color, but I think has more purple or blue. It's a little bit different, and I had debated between both of them. I should have got one of each, but anyway, so I have 2 skeins of this. So between those 4 colors, I have 6 skeins. But so this is how they would look as a fade. So I think it'll work okay. I just really want to make that sweater. I don't want to have to buy any more yarn. I love all of these colors. I'm not normally like a pink girl, but I feel like it is enough where the Woolen Boon is like the only real like pink. The others are very purpley. What I do need to do is go and figure out, if you've seen the pattern, it has like a big shawl collar. And so that's kind of a color, and then there's a certain darker color in the cuffs. So I just really need to figure out, since I'm using an extra color, where, you know, what color do I really want, like the collar to be the dark color, or do I want the color to be the lighter color? And just kind of think through that. So we'll see. So I don't know. I'm going to wind it up, maybe do a test swatch to see kind of how they all fade into each other. But I feel like that's hard in a swatch because it's such a small amount that you would be knitting on, and then these yarns probably change color at a wider length, so I don't know if you'd even get the full effect anyway. I don't know. I just don't want it to look like stark stripes, and I feel like it might. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but regardless, I'm making a comfort fade cardigan, and I'm using these colors, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so that is mostly my what's next. The one other thing, so I do obviously want to get back to designing again. I haven't done a new pattern since my Who Wears the Crown pattern. So I don't know. I need to kind of be thinking about all the different design ideas that I always have and kind of figuring out which one I want to do next. One of my coworkers was wearing a sweater, and it had a really kind of cool stitch pattern. So of course I had been thinking about it and kind of in my phone wrote like quick notes about what I thought the pattern was doing. And then read my notes like a couple hours later. I'm like, I don't know what I was talking about. And I had an image of it in my head, but not a good one. So I messaged her. I'm like, this may be the weirdest request you've ever received, but can you take a picture of your sweater that you were wearing yesterday for me? So she did, and she was awesome. And I told her if I end up doing anything kind of with the pattern part, that I'll let her name the pattern. So I think I'll probably try and do some sort of just scarf pattern with it. I'm not going to do it exactly as it appears. And again, through a picture, I'm still not going to be able to, I think, duplicate it entirely. But again, I just liked kind of the idea, and it gave me sort of inspiration for something similar. So anyway, so that's something I still need to kind of swatch out, but that's going to be something coming soon. And pretty much, I don't know, like we'll see there. I had some other things in my queue that were in Finito, because like I said, when I went through my stash, I saw all of the Malabrigo Finito and was like, you need to make stuff with this. You love this yarn. It's just been sitting here. But I think that Sunwalker shawl will kind of get that, you know, use of Finito kind of out of my system. So then I might look more on the other things. But again, like I said, I want to finish the starting point and finish the road to Rhinebeck. So I don't really need to be casting on too many new things. Let me show you, I'll show you what I've got. The first thing of what I've got, this I think will be my next weaving project. Just because I can't wait to see what it looks like. To me, like a weave where you just do a plain weave, like where you're just every other row, I guess, is like looking at like stockinette to me. Like if you knit something in stockinette, it's just kind of plain, no like crazy texture to kind of distract you, and you just get to see like the beauty of the yarn. Like I said, with this one, this was entirely a plain weave. I didn't do anything that was plaid. I just kind of went back and forth normal, but because of the way the yarn was dyed, it looks really cool. So the next thing that I want to weave, and when I saw this online, I knew right away. And I've been looking at this color for a while. So this is by Wool & Boon, which you've seen me buy lots of her stuff before. And this colorway is Dancing at a Funeral. It's so cool. It looks really cool in this light too. So the base is kind of mostly gray and dark gray, but then there are these sections of just like splotchiness and green, and there's like pink and yellow, like kind of some like neon colors in there. Like here's some like just this splotch of gray. It's just so cool. So I feel like it's going to look almost like a nice neutral gray scarf, and then some sections are just going to be kind of like bam with all of this crazy color. So I'm excited. So my friend Caitlin is knitting this yarn up in, I forget what project she's using, but so again, it's been neat to kind of see what hers looks like knit and then what this will look like in a woven fabric. So this is 435 yards. I was debating, I do have some, so another good thing too of organizing is that I found some black, I think it was Cascade, that I had made a project in like a while ago for one of my friends. And I have a little bit left over. So I may kind of just throw in some black here and there in the weave just to use up some of that yarn and to add a little bit more yardage. But I don't know, maybe I won't do as much fringe. The thing with fringe, so again, I'm sorry if I'm talking about weaving and you're not interested, but the way you weave an item, you always end up having like leftover on each end because it's the yarn that kind of stays connected to the two beams like as you weave. So you end up having all of this leftover yarn that just magically is fringe because that's what's left over. So it's kind of too bad that like if you don't want to use fringe, like it's just still waste. So like in some ways the waste just becomes your fringe, which is great if you want fringe, but if you don't, there's so much yarn waste. So it ends up making the final project shorter. I don't know. I keep thinking like, is there a way that I can combine knitting and weaving somehow, or even crochet? Like I could pick up a knit along that seamed edge and then do something to the end of it, whether I just knit garter or something along the end. I don't know. I need to kind of think about that, and I would have no idea what size needles to use that would complement a woven fabric. I don't know if knitting would end up making it bigger so that you'd have this straight woven scarf and then something funky that would flare out. I have no idea. Anyway, that's a whole things that go through my brain. Anyway, so I bought this, and then when I ordered from Wool & Boon, I bought another one, and it's a very similar colorway. This one's called the Nothing, and it's a little bit, I mean, if you look at them side by side, this one is the Nothing. This one's a little bit darker, so the gray is darker in general, but it's the same kind of idea with sort of speckled splotchy areas. But again, for the most part, it's very much a dark charcoal gray and light gray. with just very tiny kind of blips of white and splotches of color. So I may weave this one too. I don't know. I just really like that one. While I'm on just talking about yarns that I bought for weaving, so I don't know if it was right at the new year or if it was before that. So I've talked about Into the World before. I had bought some yarn, I don't know, on like a sale on Instagram that someone had that I started to brioche with, and then I never did, and I still have that, and I might weave with that one too. But and then when I went to Rhinebeck, I bought this one, and then I bought another colorway. And then I think when I did a swap with someone, I think I've shown too, she had it was Get Your Yarn Wishes Granted. Someone sent me an Into the World colorway for that. Anyway, so I was following them on Instagram, and they were doing like find a coupon code. So like you would go to their website at a certain time, and you would see like a photo of, I think it was a sheep, like a golden fleece is what they called it. And it would have a code in it. If you put that code in, it was like 20 or 25% off. And then it also worked on sale items, I think. And so some of these that I think maybe all of these that I bought were also on sale at that point in time. So I got each of these skeins of yarn for like probably half off. I think they were like $12 a piece or something crazy like that. So this is all the same base that I'm about to show you. So moral of the story is I ended up doing it twice. So I bought 3 skeins the first time, found the code again like a few days later, and bought 3 more skeins. Crazy, but worth it. So this is all on the resist dyed Pakoku sock, 460 yards, so it's a fairly light fingering, 100%, merino nylon, 75% merino, 25% nylon, 4-ply. So this is the Andraste colorway. Let me hold them all. I don't know if you'll be able to kind of see. Oh, you can see it a little bit. Really pretty. Maybe if I go this way, you'll be able to see. So mostly kind of white and teal, but then has some purple and some kind of really, really dark, like almost army greeny black in there, which is pretty neat. Then let's stick to the green theme. So this is called Always Greener. And it is, again, mostly cream, but then has gray sections and kind of green sections. Then, Queen of France. Love this one. So it's pinks and reds and white and gray, and there's like a really dark splotch of gray right there too. Just love it. Then A Horse with No Name, which I love these colors, the whole kind of blue, tan, brown colorways. Then Vampires of Venice. This is really, really rainbow. So you can see the purple and the blue and the teal, and then it's got like orangey brown kind of up there too. And finally, Moriarty is the name of this one. This one's very dark. Like there's almost more purple than there is kind of cream on this one. But gorgeous. Like look at that. The purple and the blue are so pretty. So I got all of those. So pretty sure I'm going to weave with most of those. I think it will have kind of an effect like this, but these lines are going to be crazy rainbow colors. And yeah, weaving was supposed to like get rid of my stash, and somehow now I'm finding stash to buy for woven stuff. Then let's see, I'll show you. So in January, I got the last installment that I have from October House Fiber Arts. If you remember, I won a 3-month subscription to their sock club. So this is the last one, which is very sad because it's been such a joy to get. But I love their yarn and will definitely continue to buy more, and going to design something with their yarn at some point as well. So this colorway is Liesel. And as I've said before with their yarn, like their colors are very gentle and delicate. This one is sort of an off-white base with just this really pretty sky blue. So this is very light fingering as well, 460 yards for Sojourn sock base, 75 merino, 25 nylon. Really pretty. Let's see. Then, so I watched the Suburban Stitcher podcast with Diane, and for her, she did a 12 Days of Christmas. She purchased a 12 Days of Christmas yarn club from Lavender Loon Yarn. She also kind of did a Vlogmas, so it was interesting to kind of see as she pulled colors during those 12 days what the yarn was. But then at the very end, Lavender Loon had given a full skein of yarn, and the colorway was called Hearthside. So I started following Lavender Loon on Instagram, and she had posted that she was going to be dyeing some more because I was super interested in getting a full skein because it was so pretty when Diane was knitting it up. So it's really, really nice. Like the base is like a tan brown color, but then the speckles are just really, really pretty. Mostly maroon, but then some green there too. So it's a really nice, I mean, it's a Christmas colorway, but not really, you know, it's so pretty. This is fingering weight, 75-25, 463 yards. So again, a very light fingering. And there's her label right there, Lavender Loon. So I really, really like it. And then coincidentally, someone had was looking at my stash that I have, listed as for trade or sale on Ravelry. She didn't want to buy, but she was willing to trade. And so I looked at her stash, and she had another skein. She had a skein of Lavender Loon yarn. This is the same exact yarn base as that, fingering weight, and this color is Teddy. And it's a really cool brown. I mean, it's true teddy bear brown. Like, it's not quite chocolate and it's not quite tan. It's just a really, really neat colorway. At first, I was like, oh, when I saw it, I'm like, maybe that brown will go with the Hearthside, and it doesn't. I don't really like those two together. But either way, I like this color a lot. I'm always kind of looking for a decent kind of tonal color. So it was fun to kind of trade and get another skein of that. And I think finally, so I have purchased a bag before from Molly Klein Design. Follow her on Instagram and things. So she has been dyeing yarn for, 6 months or so, I think, as well, in addition to making bags. So her yarn line is called Sweet Tea Yarns. And she posted a picture on Instagram that I was so in love with the colors, and when she finally released them on Etsy, I jumped on them. There were initially 3 colors, but I ended up deciding only on 2 because, So this is her, again, Sweet Tea Yarns, and the base is called Sweet Sock, similar to the other ones I just showed you, 463 yards, 75-25. This colorway is called Dalmatian Plantation. Mostly white cream, but then gorgeous big splotches of black, and then some kind of smaller splotches in there. Really cool color. Let me show you her Sweet Tea Yarns. And then this one is called Taken for Granite, with granite spelled like granite, not granted. And the base is very blue-gray, and then it just has kind of splatters of brown in there. Oh, that's a good view right there. It's so pretty. So these I'm definitely using together. I think I'm going to do the Tracy shawl. So when Joji Locatelli came out with the Jody shawl and the Tracy shawl for the Grocery Girls, I think I showed last time I had about 3 skeins of Tosh DK to make the Jody shawl, which I think I will still probably do. I've been iffy on whether I want to use those 3 colors or not. Anyway, and then then the Tracy shawl is fingering weight, and I really think I'm going to use these 2 together. I think they'll be really pretty together. There's a lot of like this part in here is like the same splotchiness of that. I don't know. I think they'll go good. So I think that's it, everybody. I'm trying to look at my notes. There's not much else to show. I did make a purchase from Eat Sleep Knit on my birthday. My birthday was January 9th. Yay. Actually, I did, if anyone of you that follow me on Instagram, I did a 40% off giveaway on all of my designs, and sold a lot. So I was super, super thankful to everybody for kind of purchasing my designs and celebrating my 40th birthday with me. Don't really feel any different. Same old, same old. Maybe creakier, when we did all of the painting, I was just so tired and sore and definitely felt old during those couple weeks. But anyway, so that kind of happened. So yeah, on Eat Sleep Knit, you get credit if you buy yarn on your birthday. So of course I had to do that. I'll just wait and kind of show you those as I use them. I don't really have anything super planned for the things that I bought right away. So I'll just kind of talk through those yarns when I eventually use them. God, what else has been going on? Not too much really over the weekend, which was sort of my exciting weekend. I went to New York City. So I live just outside of Boston, Massachusetts. My family lives in a different part of Mass, kind of more southern Worcester County, kind of closer to the Connecticut border, about an hour and a half-ish away from where I am. But so for my nieces, so I have three nieces that are my sisters, so an 18-year-old and two 16-year-old twins. So for the twins' 16th birthday, my sister and myself and my husband, we got them tickets to see Dear Evan Hansen on Broadway. So this past Saturday, we drove to New Haven, Connecticut, took a train from New Haven all the way to Grand Central, and just spent the day in New York City. We got there super early, walked around. My nieces are just obsessed with theater and performing, and I mean, they know so many soundtracks and are just so many of like the performers, different shows that they've been in, who's won a Tony, and like they're amazing and so obsessed. So for them to be on Broadway and seeing all of the marquees and being around was awesome, and being in Times Square, and so it was great. We kind of planned out the whole day. So we did make a stop at Mood Fabrics. So I'm a big Project Runway fan, so it was really neat to kind of find it and be in it. And we were trying so hard not to like be tourists and obsessed with the TV show, but it was hard to be like, oh, they usually run around in here and buy fabric. So I did buy a bag, even though I have lots of little project bags, but I thought this one was cool because it's just kind of a wool felt bag. So that was kind of one of my little souvenirs. But yeah, I mean, it was a great day. I was hoping to kind of put in a yarn shop. I kind of looked to see where Pearl Soho and Nitty City were, but they were a little bit too far away from where we were going. We were kind of focused more in the Midtown area and kind of walking around over there. But yeah, I mean, it was really cool to see the theaters. The Dear Evan Hansen was amazing. I hadn't heard really anything about the storyline. I started listening to a couple songs like in the week leading up, just to familiarize myself with the music a little bit. And I love musicals, like I'm obsessed with a lot, but haven't really known much about this one. And it was so good. I mean, all I had known, so Ben Platt from Pitch Perfect was initially kind of the very first lead. He no longer is on Broadway. I think he's doing other stuff now. Like he's going to come out with his own CD and things like that. But so we ended up having the alternate actually was performed during our matinee. And then a understudy female, and the female lead kind of was our performer as well. So it was neat to kind of see people who don't normally perform every day in those roles get to perform. So that was cool. And then the Evan Hansen character actually came out after the show, and my niece got his autograph. So that was neat. But yeah, it was a great day. We walked around a lot. It was so fun. I mean, in really like 4 hours-ish to get to New York. Granted, it's 8 hours of travel in one day, so it makes for a long day, but it was neat to just be able to go and experience it. And made me think like Book Knitting Live had just happened there, that I could probably handle 8 hours of travel to go to Book Knitting Live maybe next year. So anyway, that's about it for me today. I'm hoping to, like I said, really get back into a routine and try and podcast every week. I'm going to be winding up all of that yarn for the Comfort Fade Cardi right now, and obviously continuing working on my Sunwalker shawl, and get back to those other shawl whips that I have in my Cozy Memories blanket. I'm going to attempt to at least put in one square every week. I'm going to say that out loud. One square at the very minimum every week, so I can make some progress. I probably have at least 15 different yarns that I want to put in my blanket. I know some people kind of do ones that it's like all whatever minis they have, but I really have just wanted to do yarns from projects that I've actually completed, like done something in that I've used in projects. So obviously I have to like wait till I have those to complete the blanket, but I have enough right now that I don't think I'll ever run out. And then with weaving, I'm using mostly all fingering weight right now, so I will have lots and lots. So okay, making that commitment, 1 square at the very least every week to show you. I may be doing it in the hours leading up to the podcast every week, but that's what I'm going to try and do. Anyway, thanks for joining. Welcome to anyone that's new. If this is your first podcast, episode 20, I can't believe how amazing it's been. I really appreciate everyone. I have so much support both here and on Instagram and from other podcasters. It's just been a really fun experience and excited to continue on in 2018. So keep on knitting, everybody, and we will see you next time. Bye.